We'd been talking, Christopher said, though I hadn't heard a word of it. Not a family conversation, just a decision handed down like I was an old toolbox taking up garage space. I'm Andrew Reynolds, 65 years old, and I've been living in this house since I built it with my own hands in 1982. Now my son was telling me it was time to go. I nodded slowly, buying time, trying to keep my voice steady. What brought this on? Christopher sighed like I was being difficult. It's not personal, Dad. It's just this house isn't really working for us anymore. We're thinking of expanding, maybe converting your workshop into Nicole's yoga studio. We need flexibility, you know. I looked around my kitchen. The same oak cabinets I'd installed myself back when Reagan was president. The same tile backsplash Linda picked out before she passed 4 years ago. This wasn't just a house. This was 42 years of sweat, sacrifice, and memories built into every board and beam. Nicole finally looked up from her phone. We're saying this with love, Andrew. We just want what's best for everyone. You included. Everyone. Not me. Everyone else. I see, I said, setting down my coffee mug. So you've made up your minds. Christopher nodded, looking relieved I wasn't putting up a fight. We'll help you look, of course. Maybe even cover the first few months if money's tight. But it's time, Dad. You've been rattling around here long enough. Rattling around, like loose change in a coffee can. That night, I sat in the living room long after they'd gone upstairs. My recliner faced the stone fireplace I'd built rock by rock. Christopher always said he'd fix the damper, but never got around to it. I didn't light a fire, just sat there with Linda's old quilt, staring at the wood paneling I'd installed myself. 42 years. I remembered the day we poured the foundation. Linda and I barely 23, me fresh from my electrical apprenticeship, and her with paint under her fingernails. We built this place board by board, paycheck by paycheck. No contractors, just neighbors, some beer, and plenty of stubbornness. Christopher was born 2 years later in the bedroom upstairs, back when the hallway still had exposed studs. Now I was being asked to step aside like I was holding up progress. But I wasn't angry yet. Anger takes energy, and I hadn't decided how I felt about anything. What I did feel was something heavy in my chest. Like dust on a shelf nobody looks at anymore. They figured I'd go quietly, find some little apartment with basic cable and bingo on Thursdays. They figured I'd slip away without disturbing their plans. Maybe that's what they were used to. Me making things easier. I stood up, joints creaking, and walked to my old desk in the corner. I opened the bottom drawer and pulled out the metal lockbox where Linda and I used to keep important papers. The combination was still the same. Linda's birthday. Between the insurance documents and old tax returns, folded neat as you please, was the original deed to the house. My name. Linda's name. Paid off in full 12 years ago. The house was mine. I closed the box and sat there for a long time, listening to the quiet that lives in old houses built by hand. Thing is, they forgot who they were dealing with. They forgot I built this place with these hands and buried my wife with the dignity of a man who doesn't bend to storms. They forgot I wasn't done yet. The first time I saw this land, it was nothing but scrub oak and red dirt. Linda stood beside me with a thermos of coffee and mud on her work boots. It's not much, I said, but it's ours if we want it. It was 1982. We had $4,200 in savings, one beat-up Ford pickup, and dreams bigger than our bank account. We signed the papers on the truck's tailgate using my hard hat as a table. That afternoon, we marked the corners with stakes and string. That's what this house was built on. Hope and the kind of stubborn determination that doesn't quit. I wasn't any architect, and Linda wasn't any contractor. But between my electrical training and her bookkeeping, we made it work. I mixed concrete in a wheelbarrow and poured it myself. We borrowed tools, traded favors, and worked weekends under shop lights. Christopher was born when the upstairs was still unfinished. His crib sat next to sawhorses and paint cans. He used to fall asleep to the sound of my hammer and wake up to the smell of coffee and sawdust. He doesn't remember any of that. Or maybe he does, and it's easier not to. The swing set in the backyard? I welded that from scrap steel when he turned 6. The oak tree we planted when he graduated high school still drops acorns every fall. All these things, the slight bow in the kitchen floor, the creak in the third stair, the workshop door that sticks when it rains, they're not problems. They're proof of a life lived here. I thought about all this the morning after Christopher's announcement. I woke early, made coffee, not that anyone else drinks it anymore, and stepped onto the back porch. The boards sagged a little under my weight. Been meaning to fix that for years. The morning air was cool, and the smell of damp earth hit me without warning. Not tears exactly, just that tight feeling in your throat when something's ending whether you want it to or not. I sat on the porch swing, Linda, and I used to share every evening, pulled my flannel tighter, and looked out at what used to be our view. Mostly new houses now, SUVs and privacy fences. But I still loved it. They wanted to take it. Not because they needed it, but because they figured I'd had enough of it. I watched the sunrise paint the roof lines gold and knew what I had to do. I wasn't going to let them push me out, and I wasn't going to pack my things and leave like some guest who'd overstayed his welcome. If I was leaving, it would be on my terms, and this house wasn't going to them. Not anymore. Later that morning, when Christopher left for his marketing job, and Nicole headed off to her Pilates class, or wherever she goes when there's no one to manage, I walked straight to my workshop. Been my sanctuary for 42 years. Every tool had its place. Every project told a story. Now they wanted to turn it into a yoga studio. Namaste, my ass. I pulled open the old filing cabinet in the corner, the one that's been sticking since the Clinton administration. Bottom drawer always gave me trouble, especially when it's humid. But today it opened easy, like it knew what I was looking for. Inside were the receipts, the real history of this family, not birthday cards or Christmas photos. This drawer held the truth in black and white. I spread them out on my workbench like blueprints. Christopher's name on every damn one. $9,200 for his first truck when he was 19. Thing barely ran, but he loved it. Transmission went 6 months later. I wrote the check without blinking. $52,000 for his college loans when the interest started eating him alive. Just until I get on my feet, Dad, he said. That was 25 years. Ego. Feet must still be pretty wobbly. $35,000 for the down payment on this very house when Christopher and Nicole were struggling after their first baby. We'll pay you back as soon as things turn around, Nicole promised. Even hugged me that day. Probably the last time she touched me without cringing. I ran my finger along the numbers, adding them up in my head. $96 to $200, nearly $100,000 over the years. Every dollar meant to say, I believe in you, even when they stopped saying, thank you. You know what's funny? Somewhere along the way, helping turned into expecting. Then expecting turned into demanding. I didn't mind at first. That's what fathers do, right? You teach your boy to swing a hammer, and you never really stop being his safety net. But safety net becomes background noise, and background noise just gets ignored. Christopher hasn't asked how I'm doing in months. Not since that doctor's appointment when I didn't mention the chest pains. Didn't want to worry him. Hell, I doubt he'd have noticed anyway. Nicole stopped talking to me altogether after I tracked mud through her precious kitchen. Week later, I offered to fix the garbage disposal that had been acting up. She waved me off with that tight little smile. We'll just call someone professional, she said, like I was offering to perform brain surgery with a butter knife. That's how far I've fallen, from provider to problem. I closed the drawer and walked back into the house. Time to make a phone call. I flipped through my old address book until I found Jennifer Martinez. Jennifer was a friend from church, helped Linda and me refinance back in the 90s when rates dropped. She'd gone into real estate after her husband passed. Good woman. Understood what it meant to lose someone and start over. I dialed her number. She picked up on the third ring. Jennifer, it's Andrew Reynolds. Andrew! Lord, I haven't heard from you since Linda's service. How are you holding up? I'm doing all right. Listen, I need your help with something. Quietly. There was a pause. Not the uncomfortable kind, but the kind that says someone's really listening. I'm here, she said. What do you need? I want to sell my house. Her voice got softer. Are you sure about this? Sure as I've ever been about anything. And Christopher? I looked around the kitchen, at the cabinets I'd built, the floor I'd laid, the life I'd created. He doesn't need to know. Not yet. Jennifer didn't ask why. Good woman doesn't poke at wounds. All right then, she said. Let's talk. By the time we hung up, we had ourselves a plan. No yard signs, no online listings where Christopher might stumble across them. Everything by appointment only, with buyers who had cash ready and didn't need months to get their financing straight. Jennifer said she knew people, retirees mostly, folks who appreciated solid construction over granite countertops and stainless steel everything. People who understood that a house built by hand had something you couldn't buy at Home Depot. The right kind of people. I hung up and looked around the living room. The couch was worn, but comfortable. The coffee table had ring stains from 30 years of coffee mugs and beer bottles. The whole place smelled like Old Spice and morning coffee. It wasn't perfect, but it was honest. And it was still mine. That afternoon, while Christopher was in meetings and Nicole was doing whatever it is she does when she's not criticizing the way I chew my food, I started going through things. Not packing yet, just deciding. What mattered, what didn't, what I could carry with me when the time came. I pulled out a yellow legal pad and walked through the house, room by room. Master bedroom. Keep Linda's jewelry box. Donate extra bedding. Trash the broken lamp. Guest room. Pack photo albums. Donate books I'll never read again. Keep the quilt Linda's mother made. Christopher's old room was the hardest. Still had model airplanes hanging from the ceiling. We built those together, Saturday. Mornings at the kitchen table with airplane glue and tiny paintbrushes. He wanted to be a pilot back then. Used to take him out to the airport just to watch planes take off. Now he pushes paper around a desk, selling other people's dreams for a living. I sat on his old bed and wrote, "Pack one airplane, donate the rest. Keep the photo of us at the air show." There's something liberating about deciding what matters. When you strip a life down to what you can actually carry, it shows you what's real and what's just taking up space. By evening, I had my list. 3 boxes of keepsakes, 1 suitcase of clothes, and my toolbox. Everything else could go to Goodwill or stay with the house. 42 years reduced to what would fit in the back of a pickup truck. Turns out that was plenty. The first showing was on a Thursday. I made cornbread that morning. Not because I was trying to impress anybody, I'm past that nonsense, but because the smell reminded me this was a home, not just a transaction. If someone couldn't feel that walking through the door, they weren't the right buyers. Jennifer arrived 10 minutes early, like always. She wore her serious navy blazer, the one that said, "I'm professional, but I won't bullshit you." Had that leather folder tucked under her arm, same as when she helped us refinance. "Just one couple today," she said. "No pressure. They're in no rush, and they've bought older homes before." I nodded. Let's see if they deserve it. The couple was maybe early 60s. Michelle and Daniel Parker. She had silver hair she didn't try to hide, and he wore comfortable shoes without making apologies. I liked them right off the bat for that alone. They didn't walk in talking about tearing down walls or opening up the space. They asked about the foundation, whether the electrical was up to code, if the roof had ever leaked. Real questions from people who understood what mattered. Daniel spent a long time in my workshop, running his hands along the workbench I'd built from a single piece of oak. "You do good work," he said. "Simple as that. No need to elaborate." Michelle stood in the kitchen and asked if the morning light was always this nice. When I said yes, she smiled like I'd told her something important. I served them coffee and slices of cornbread on the blue plates Linda saved for company. We sat at the kitchen table I'd built when Christopher was in kindergarten. Still had the gouge where he'd dropped a wrench helping me fix the garbage disposal. "You must have loved this house," Michelle said. "I didn't pretend otherwise." "I did, still do." "Then why sell? That question would have destroyed me a month ago." Now it was just honest conversation between adults. "Because it's mine," I said, "and I'd like it to go to someone who gets that." They didn't push for details about family drama, just nodded with the kind of respect that comes from having your own stories. After they left, Jennifer turned to me with a smile. "They want to make an offer. Already? Full asking price." Said the house felt like it had been waiting for them. I stared at the kitchen window, at the bird feeder I'd hung 20 years ago. "Let's sit on it for a day. Make sure they mean it." But I already knew they did. Known it since Daniel touched that workbench like it mattered. Over the next few days, Jennifer fielded 2 more inquiries. One was a young couple who wanted to flip it. The other was some hot shot who talked about maximizing the square footage and creating flow. "No," I told Jennifer. "Not those kinds of people." She didn't argue. Good agents know when not to push. Meanwhile, I kept sorting through 42 years of accumulated life. You'd be amazed how much stuff you collect without noticing. Boxes of extension cords I'd never use again. Coffee cans full of screws and washers. 3 different tool belts, each one marking a different decade of work. Christopher and Nicole were too busy planning their renovations to notice what I was doing. They'd assumed I'd take forever to find a place, that I'd drag my feet and need months of gentle nudging toward the door. They had no idea I was already 3 steps ahead. The Parkers came back the following Monday. Not for another showing, but for what Jennifer called getting to know you better. Of course, that's not how she put it to them. She just said they had some questions about the house systems. But I knew what this was really about. They wanted to make sure they weren't buying a problem along with the property. This time I made my grandmother's apple pie, recipe I'd learned from watching Linda, though mine never came out quite as good. We sat in the living room, afternoon light coming through the windows I'd installed myself back when Carter was president. "We'd take care of it," Michelle said quietly. "The garden, the workshop, even that squeaky board on the front porch." Daniel nodded. "We're not looking to change everything. Just want to live in it." That was it. The thing I'd been waiting to hear without knowing I was waiting. "What about the workshop?" I asked. "Keep it exactly like it is," Daniel said. "Might even ask you to show me how some of those tools work, if you're willing." Right then, I knew they were the ones. That evening, after they'd gone, Jennifer and I sat at the kitchen table going over paperwork. Purchase agreement, disclosure forms, inspection waivers, all the legal stuff that turns a handshake into a binding contract. "You sure about this?" she asked one more time. I looked around the kitchen. At the cabinets I'd hung level by level, at the tile backsplash Linda had picked from a sample book, at the morning light that would still come through these windows long after I was gone. I'm sure we set the closing for the following Friday. Cash deal, no financing contingencies, no months of waiting for bank approvals. Jennifer said it was the cleanest sale she'd handled in years. I signed my name on the listing agreement, my signature still steady after all these years. When Jennifer left, I walked through the house one more time, not saying goodbye. That would come later. Just looking at what I'd built and knowing it would outlive me. The foundation was solid, The wiring was good for another 50 years. The roof wouldn't need replacing until long after I was done needing shelter from storms. I'd built something that would last. Now it was time to let someone else take care of it. Friday morning couldn't come fast enough. Friday came with clear skies and cold coffee. I was up before dawn, not because I couldn't sleep, but because I wanted to watch the sun come up over my property one last time. Sat on that sagging porch with Linda's old quilt around my shoulders, listening to the boards creak under my weight. The closing was set for 10 a.m. at some lawyer's office downtown. Jessica Brown from the bank would be there with the wire transfer paperwork. Jennifer had everything else handled. All I had to do was sign my name and walk away with more money than I'd seen since I retired. Most of it was going straight into a trust account. Not for Christopher. Hell no. For Ashley, my granddaughter. Only person in that house who still asked if I'd eaten dinner. When she was old enough to understand, she'd learned that her grandfather wasn't the old fool everyone thought he was. Christopher left for work at 8:30, like always. Coffee mug in one hand, phone pressed to his ear with the other. "Tell them we're not budging on the deadline," he was saying as he backed out the driveway. Didn't even wave. Nicole was at her Friday morning Pilates class. She'd be gone until noon, then off to lunch with whatever group of women spent their time complaining about their husbands and in-laws. Perfect timing. The lawyer's office smelled like old leather and fresh coffee. Jessica was already there with her briefcase, and that same no-nonsense smile she'd worn for 30 years. Jennifer had the closing documents spread across the conference table like battle plans. "Mr. Reynolds," the lawyer said, "I just need you to initial here, and sign at the bottom. I read every line. Habit from 40 years of reading electrical contracts. When you sign something, you better know what you're agreeing to. The house was no longer mine. Simple as that." Jessica slid the bank papers across the table. "The funds will be available immediately. Most of it's going into the trust account as requested." I nodded. "And the rest? Checking account for your immediate needs. Should be plenty to get you settled wherever you're going." Wherever I was going. I'd found a small apartment across town, near the VFW hall, and a decent diner that served breakfast all day. 1 bedroom, small kitchen, garage for my tools, everything a man needed, and nothing he didn't. By 11:30, it was done. I shook hands with Daniel and Michelle in the parking lot. They promised to take good care of the place. I believed them. "You ever want to come by and see how we're settling in?" Michelle said. "You're always welcome." I thanked her, but didn't make any promises. Some doors you close and don't look back through. Jennifer drove me home, former home, to get my things. 3 boxes, 1 suitcase, and my toolbox. Everything else stayed with the house or went to Goodwill. Amazing how little you actually need when you stop carrying other people's expectations. I left one thing on the kitchen table. An envelope with Christopher's name on it. Inside was Jennifer's business card and a copy of the sale agreement. Already signed, already filed, already done. No letter, no explanation. He was a smart boy. He could figure it out. I was sitting in my truck in the driveway of my new place when my phone started ringing. 3:47 p.m. Christopher. I let it go to voicemail. Then again at 3:52 and 3:58. By 4:15, the text messages started coming. "Dad, where are you? There's a sold sign in the yard. What's going on? Call me now." Then Nicole. "This better be some kind of mistake. We had plans. Where are you?" I had to laugh at that one. Plans. I'd spent 25 years fitting myself around their plans. Now they could figure out their own. The longest message came at 5:23. "Dad, I don't understand. Why would you do this without telling us? We were going to fix everything up, make it perfect. You could have stayed forever. You've really screwed us over here." Nicole's crying. "Ashley keeps asking where Grandpa went. Please call me back. We need to fix this." I read it twice. Still nothing about whether I was okay. Still nothing about being sorry for how they'd treated me. Just, you've screwed us over. No, son, you did that to yourself. I turned off the phone and unpacked my things. The apartment was small but clean. Had a little balcony overlooking the parking lot, but at least it faced west. I'd get the sunset every evening if I wanted it. 3 days later, Christopher showed up at my door. Must have gotten the address from Jennifer. He looked like hell. Unshaven, wrinkled shirt, eyes red from not sleeping. "Dad," he said, "we need to talk." I let him in, made coffee. We sat at my small kitchen table, knees almost bumping in the narrow space. "I've been thinking about what you did," he said, "about the house." I waited. "I think I understand now. Why you did it." His voice got quieter. "We weren't seeing you anymore, were we? Just seeing problems to solve." That was the first honest thing he'd said to me in years. "You want to know something?" I said. "I don't regret it. Not for a minute." He nodded slowly. "Ashley misses you. She can visit any time. You too, if you want." "And Nicole?" I shrugged. "That's between you and her. We talked for another hour. Not about the house, that was done, but about other things. Work, Ashley's school, the weather, normal stuff fathers and sons talk about when they're not fighting over who gets to be in charge." When he left, he hugged me at the door. First time in years. "I'm proud of you, Dad," he said, "for standing up for yourself." I watched him drive away, then sat on my little balcony with a beer and watched the sun go down. At 65, I'd finally learned the difference between being alone and being lonely. I was alone now, but I wasn't lost. I was exactly where I belonged. Sometimes the only way to get people's attention is to walk away while they're not looking. Turns out respect isn't something you can ask for. It's something you have to take.